In this video, we will be discussing co-ownership part 2 of 3. The main focus in this video will be on joint tenancy. Just to recall a few characteristics of joint tenancy, the joint tenancy requires the presence of all 4 unities which were discussed in the previous video. And secondly, the right of survivorship, which is the major distinction between the joint tenancy and tenancy in common. Just to make you understand, joint tenancies are normally formed between family members, spousal relationships, or close friends, etc. Often in cases of family homes, the wives also claim their share in the home. This can be where either the husband dies or where the wife and the husband decide to get divorced. These are the possibilities arising in the case of a wife claiming her share in the property. The first is where the wife made a contribution to the purchase price and the property is in joint names. Second possible situation is where wife did not make direct contribution to the purchase price, but the house is in the name of the husband and wife. Third is where wife made a direct contribution to the purchase price, but the property is in sole legal name of the husband. And lastly, wife did not make a contribution to the purchase price and property is in the sole legal name of the husband. Wives can claim interest in land by establishing a trust. The first step to this is acquisition of the equitable interest in the property. And second step is quantification of this equitable share in the property. Acquisition of the equitable interest in the property can be done either by showing resulting trust where the wife has made direct contribution to the purchase price, or under the constructive trust where there is evidence to show that there was a common intention as to the wife having an equitable interest in the property. There are several case laws that highlight the issues regarding common intention. Jones versus Kernot from the year 2011 is the case law applicable, which has been decided in line with the earlier decisions of Stack versus Dowden and Oxley versus Hiscock. In Stack versus Dowden, Lady Hale gave this approach to be followed to acquire the equitable interest in the property where the house is in the joint legal names. The first step is that you start with the presumption that equity follows the law. That is, they are the joint tenants at law and in equity. But following the second step, this presumption can be rebutted by showing the common intention. Third step is that if the common intention is unclear, the third step is to be followed where the common intention is unclear, where court considers the whole course of dealing between husband and wife in relation to the property. Before Stack versus Dowden, Lloyd Bank Limited versus Rosette from year 1991 said that where the house is not in joint legal names, the wife cannot claim a share in it unless she has made a direct contribution to the purchase price. After Stack versus Dowden, academic debate arose as to whether or not Stack versus Dowden was applicable instead of Lloyd Bank in cases where the house was not in joint legal names. The Privy Council in Abbott versus Abbott from year 2007 and Court of Appeal in Jerry versus Rankine from the year 2012 held that Stack versus Dowden applies instead of Lloyd Bank even where the property is not in joint legal names. There are also some old case laws for finding common intention. The first division is common intention constructive trust. This is where there is some arrangement or understanding between the parties. For example, husband goes to work and wife deals with household chores and bringing up the children, or occasionally working for the family. Secondly, where the wife makes a contribution to the purchase price, but the house is not in her joint name. Then the second approach is the balance sheet approach. Here the court focuses solely on the cash contributions as seen in Springett versus Defoe 1992. The third approach is family asset approach. Here the court undertakes a survey of the entire course of dealings between the parties. Fourth is the unconscionability approach. This is where court considers situations where it would be unconscionable for the claimant to be denied some right in the property. And lastly, proprietary estoppel. This approach is used where there has been a representation from the owner of the house to the claimant, which makes the claimant believe that an equitable interest in the property will be given to him or her. These 5 divisions of the case laws are in fact the approaches or the more specific situations, and it is up to the court's discretion and which approach is more relevant to the situation. This was all from this chapter, and remaining of this chapter will be continued in the next video. I hope it was helpful If you found it helpful, please support me by liking and sharing my videos. Thank you.